back in 2.5 years ago, we had a massive change in the market. We kind of inserted a mantra into the Leadership 360 program. We're just figuring it out. And some people have. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
there are people that we know, you and I, that are actually doing very well right now. And they've shapeshifted, right? Like they remade themselves. And then there are many that are still trying to find themselves in that regard. So what are the things that you're seeing that originators in today's current market are struggling with? And what are some of the things that you're seeing from a few originators that they've figured out that are now having success as a result of kind of changing the way that they've approached the business?
The thing that I see most people struggle with is that they've lost their identity with who they knew themselves to be prior to a higher rate environment. So, when rates were really low, I mean, ultimately really 2011 through 2022, right? So a good 11 years where a lot of inventory, affordable homes, low interest rates, a ton of demand for mortgage, right? Cash out, homes going up in value. There was just a lot of opportunity, and people put their self-identity in their production, right? Like, I am a good mortgage professional because I do X, right? Because I do X volume or make X amount of money. And well, whether it's founded or not, it created confidence, and that confidence bred an easier path forward, right? Because when you're doing well and people are saying yes, and you're getting partnerships and you're closing loans, it's much easier to go make the next call, right? To book the next meeting, to go to the next open house, because you're motivated because you see success immediately, right? You see your results show up immediately. And it's easier to do hard work at that point. Right? It doesn't even feel like hard work, even though, it is. There's long hours involved in that. What happened was, when the market shifted and took all that away, right? People didn't feel the same about themselves. I mean, I can't tell you how many conversations I'm fortunate I get to talk to, dozens, if not more, mortgage professionals a week, not just within Neo, but at other organizations. And the first thing people say almost always is, well, my production's down, and then they start telling me all the reasons why. And I can just feel that they have low energy, right? I can feel that they are not proud of their production. And there's some people that will be like, oh, I'm only doing 50, 60 million this year, and they're down about it. It's like, that's a pretty good number in this day and age. But it's not what it used to be, right? So it's all relative. It doesn't matter where they are. It could be doing 100 million, but they were doing 400 million before. So that is the biggest thing, is that they've just lost it here. They're the same person, right? They have the same opportunity. I would argue they even have a greater opportunity now, right? Because they're kind of fighting a battle against people who, they've kind of lost the spark. Right. So their competition isn't as fierce as it used to be. That's the number one thing that I've seen. It's also a resistance to change. People are very much pushing back against the concept of having a beginner's mindset. Right. That just because you got here by doing X, Y, or Z, right, doesn't mean that you're going to get to where you want to go by doing the same thing. So how open are you to the idea that you may want to change some things, right? You may want to change your value proposition. You may want to change your client experience. You may want to change the way you look at your business partnerships. You may need to make some personal changes, right, about your mental health or your well-being or your diet or exercise or your friend circle or whatever it may be. It's just, most people have been in this business for a long time. It's pretty rare to meet someone who's only been in this business for 3 or 4 years, right? Most people are, 10 years plus. And it's hard to create new pathways, right? And for people to say, look, okay, I'm going to be open-minded. I'm going to learn. I'm going to try new things, and I'm going to pivot, right? Like, I'm reading a really great book right now called Pivot or Die. And it's just been really enlightening on how people push back so much against change. Right? And they would rather just slowly wither away into the ether as opposed to making a pivot and changing to do something different. And I think the mortgage, I mean, obviously I've never been in another industry, really professionally other than the mortgage industry. But I can't imagine other industries are this staunchly opposed to pivoting, changing, trying new things, and kind of skating to where the puck is going.
I think that in fairness to, and I've not been in many other industries. I mean, just a small glimpse in the restaurant business and maybe a little bit different in the coaching business, but in the same industry. But I think that what is different about the mortgage industry is it requires more pivoting than most industries because of the cyclical nature of everything from rates to technological advancement to the sources of business having changed a bit over the years. So you're absolutely right. People resist that change and that pivot. Why do you think that is? What have you ascertained is the reason why people have such a difficult time having that beginner's mindset and remaking themselves?
Largely because they didn't have to for so long. All right, if you have an 11-year run where all you really needed to do is just show up and you could have a certain modest level of success, right? Obviously, it depends on how much you show up and what you do. But if you just keep doing that and your success grows and grows and grows, like, the basics in the mortgage industry oftentimes work. Not all the time, but oftentimes, right? Call your database, stay in front of your realtor partners, right? Give good customer service, just do the basics. And over time, you should get more and more clients, right? You should get more referrals. You should get more at bats. And that happened for people for 11 straight years. And so telling someone who was used to a certain lifestyle, right? Used to a certain level of income, used to a certain day-to-day routine, right? Didn't have to get super uncomfortable because they were comfortable in what they knew. I don't think 1 or 2 years is enough to really get people, like in this book, it talks about there's the like a forced pivot. Like you absolutely have to, there's no choice. Like it's a forced pivot. There's a failure pivot, which is you failed, right? So now you have to pivot. There's a success pivot, which is you're already successful, but you pivot because of it. And that's the hardest one for people to do, right? Is the success pivot. And that's really where people got stuck, right? Now they're sometimes either being forced to pivot into an industry, right? Go find another job or do something different. But what I'm proud of our group, and I'm proud of a lot of people, in the loan analyst community, is that these are people who are open not only to a success pivot, but to looking into the future, right? And saying, okay, this is where we think this is going. Who do we need to become, right? What do we need to do? What do we need to learn? What skills do we need to create in order to meet that opportunity head on as it shows up? And I think that just, again, it takes leadership oftentimes, right? It takes somebody that has the vision to say, let's not just slowly erode here, right? Let's actively work towards the disruption and becoming the disruption, not just being a part of it.